The moment I opened my door, I knew something was wrong. The man holding my daughter's hand wasn't just kissing it, he was marking territory, his dark eyes sliding past her face to inventory. My house like a wolf counting sheep. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is where you are now. Dad! Adeline's voice bubbled with joy I hadn't heard since her mother died. This is Mateo. Before I could respond, the stranger dropped to one knee right there in my foyer. The marble tiles Maria had chosen 15 years ago reflected his theatrical gesture. Behind him, an older couple pushed through my doorway uninvited, the woman's perfume thick enough to choke on. Mr. Green, Mateo announced, still on his knee, not even waiting for proper introductions. I must have your daughter's hand. She is my destiny. The words sounded rehearsed. His accent was heavy, but the pronunciation too perfect, like he'd practiced this speech in front of a mirror. The ring he produced caught the hallway light. 2 carats at least, far beyond what any car dealership manager should afford. Mateo, you're embarrassing me, Adeline giggled, but her eyes shone. 28 years old, my daughter still believed in fairy tales. The older man had already moved past us into my living room. What a magnificent home! His fingers traced the edge of my leather couch, checking the label underneath. You must tell me about your investments, Mr. Green. That's Carlos, Mateo's father, Adeline explained, pulling me along while Mateo finally stood. And this is Isabel, his mother. Isabel grabbed my hands with both of hers, her smile wide but cold. How wonderful to meet you. Adeline says you own a construction company. How many properties do you own? For wedding planning, of course. Oh, wedding planning. They'd been dating 3 months. My military training kicked in automatically. Exits cataloged, positions noted, threat levels assessed. Carlos had his phone out, photographing my family pictures. Isabel's eyes tracked across the room like she was pricing items for auction. Mateo kept one arm around Adeline while his other hand checked his phone every few seconds. Dad's company built half of downtown Austin, Adeline beamed, missing how all 3 visitors perked up at this information. Carlos abandoned his photography to shake my hand. His grip was too firm, held too long, a dominance play I recognized from 20 years of negotiations. A successful man! You must have excellent insurance policies, retirement funds. Dinner should be ready soon, I said, keeping my voice level. My construction foreman voice, Maria used to call it. Calm but commanding. Why don't we move to the living room? They spread through my space like water finding cracks. Isabel settled into Maria's reading chair, running her fingers along the Italian leather. Carlos studied my bookshelf, pulling out volumes to check their worth. Mateo guided Adeline to the couch but remained standing, positioning himself between us. Tell me about this proposal, I said, settling into my armchair. Seems sudden. Love knows no timeline, Mateo declared, another practice line. When I saw Adeline at that Starbucks on 6th Street, I knew she would be my wife. There was no Starbucks on 6th Street. I kept my expression neutral. It was magical, Dad, Adeline added, showing the ring again. He walked right up to me and said I was the most beautiful woman he'd ever seen. Carlos had moved to my wall of military photos. You served, Mr. Green. That must mean excellent benefits. Veterans have such wonderful programs. Some, I replied, watching him photograph my discharge papers. Isabel leaned forward. Adeline mentioned your wife passed. I'm so sorry. The insurance must have helped with the transition? The transition, like Maria's death from cancer, was a corporate restructuring. We managed, I said. Mateo's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, frowned, then typed quickly. The message was in Spanish. I caught a glimpse of Sophia before he pocketed the device. Your parents flew in from Mexico? I asked him. Houston, Carlos corrected quickly. We live in Houston now, for many years. I thought Mateo said Dallas when we met, Adeline said, confused. We moved around, Mateo said smoothly. Dallas, Houston, San Antonio. Papa's business requires it. What business? I asked Carlos. Import and export, he replied vaguely. Very successful. Completely legitimate. Nobody had suggested otherwise. Isabel stood abruptly. We should celebrate. This beautiful home needs champagne for such wonderful news. I have wine, I offered, from my collection. Carlos's eyes lit up. A wine collection. Of course, a man of your caliber would have excellent taste. They followed me through the house like appraisers at an estate sale. Isabel touched every surface. Carlos opened closet doors, by mistake. Mateo whispered urgently to his father in Spanish, something quick and sharp that made Carlos wave him off dismissively. "The dining room's this way," I said, catching Carlos, mid-whisper, as they thought I'd moved ahead. His hand was on Mateo's shoulder, speaking rapidly in Spanish, while gesturing at the walls, the furniture, calculating values I pretended not to understand. I pulled the wine bottle from the rack, reading the label aloud for Carlos's benefit. 2015 Chateau Teau Margaux. Been saving it for something special. His eyes widened with naked greed. This must have cost quite a bit. Dad collects wine, Adeline said, seating herself next to Mateo. Mom started the tradition before she passed. Isabel claimed the chair closest to me, her positioning tactical. Carlos sat across from his son, creating a triangle around me. I'd seen this formation before. Interrogation setup, designed to pressure from multiple angles. The cork came free with a soft pop. I poured deliberately, watching Carlos practically salivate as the burgundy liquid filled his glass. He grabbed it before I'd finished serving others. "Tell us your love story," Isabel prompted her son while studying the crystal stemware. "For Truman to understand." Mateo launched into his tale. "I was getting coffee at that Starbucks, you know, the one on 6th, when I saw Adeline grading papers. The sun hit her hair like gold." "The sun didn't reach inside that fictional Starbucks," I kept pouring. "It was actually cloudy that day," Adeline corrected, laughing, "but everything else was perfect." "Right, cloudy," Mateo adjusted quickly. "But she glowed anyway. I knew I had to meet her." "When was this?" I asked, settling into my chair. "January 15th, Mateo said. "January 8th, Adeline said simultaneously. They looked at each other. Mateo laughed, too loud. "Time flies with love. Every day feels like the first time." Isabel fingered Adeline's ring, tilting it under the light. "The clarity is exceptional. You must have paid 30,000 at least." "Mother?" Mateo protested, but his voice lacked conviction. "We need to know for insurance purposes," Isabel continued. "When you add it to your policy, Truman?" "When? Not if." Carlos had already emptied his glass. As I refilled it, he said, "Your construction company must have government contracts? Those are the most lucrative." "Some," I admitted, serving the first course, Adeline's grandmother's soup recipe. "Federal contracts mean guaranteed payment," Carlos continued, "perfect for a man planning his daughter's future." Mateo's phone buzzed again. He glanced at it, his jaw tightening. Another Spanish text, the word urgent visible before he flipped it over. "Everything all right?" I asked. "Just work," he said quickly. "The dealership never stops calling." "Which dealership?" I asked, though Adeline had told me. "Toyota of North Austin," he said. "I thought you said Honda of Cedar Park." Adeline frowned. "I worked at both," Mateo covered. "Recently switched." Isabel steered the conversation back. "Truman, you must have excellent life insurance. A man in construction, such dangerous work." "Dad's been doing it for 30 years, Adeline defended. "He's careful." "Accidents happen," Carlos said darkly, then caught himself. "I mean, it's good to be prepared." The second course arrived. Maria's enchiladas. Isabel took one bite and spoke rapid Spanish to her husband, not quite under her breath. Something about bland American versions. Adeline, who'd spent hours perfecting the recipe, smiled unknowingly. "These are wonderful, dear," Isabel said in English, her tone completely different. "How's your visa situation?" I asked Mateo directly. "Adeline mentioned you're from Mexico originally." The table went silent. Carlos's hand stopped halfway to his wineglass. "My visa situation is complicated," Mateo said carefully. "Everything is legal," Carlos insisted too quickly. "My son has all proper documentation." "Dad's business is totally legitimate," Mateo added, which seemed unrelated to the question. Isabel touched my arm. "Family is what matters. Papers are just bureaucracy." "Of course," I agreed, noting how they all relaxed. Dessert approached as they discussed the wedding. Each time Adeline mentioned a detail, the family calculated costs aloud. 20,000 for the venue, 15 for catering. The numbers kept climbing. "We'll contribute," Carlos announced magnanimously. "After all, we're joining families. Your success is our success. Papers fell from Mateo's jacket as he reached for more wine. Official-looking documents with USCIS visible on the header. He snatched them back, shoving them deep in his pocket. Work papers, he said unnecessarily. Always carrying work papers. Carlos poured himself another glass, his fourth. His cheeks had grown red, his guard dropping. Time is short for us all. We must move quickly with our plans. Papa, Mateo warned. Carlos waved him off, then looked at his family meaningfully. Some opportunities don't wait. I rose to get the cake, my movements calm despite my racing pulse. Behind me, they switched to rapid Spanish. Voices low but urgent. Carlos's tone was commanding, Isabel's calculating, Mateo's reluctant. My hand paused mid-cut through the chocolate layers, the knife suspended as their conversation flowed. Every muscle in my body wanted to react, but I kept my expression pleasant, neutral, the perfect ignorant host about to serve dessert to wolves who thought they'd found a sheep. I resumed cutting the cake as their Spanish conversation filled my dining room, each word translating in my head while my face remained pleasantly blank. The old fool's daughter is perfect for the green card, Carlos said, not bothering to lower his voice much. 3 years after marriage, then divorce. She gets her broken heart. We get citizenship and half of everything. The knife sliced through chocolate frosting. Maria's recipe. She's a teacher, Isabel added, examining our family china. She'll believe anything with enough tears. Look how she gazes at Mateo. Completely blind. My hand stayed steady, cutting equal portions. Papa, I told you. Sophia's pregnant, Mateo said quietly. I can't leave her waiting 3 more years. Forget that girl, Carlos snapped. You'll do your duty to this family. Sophia will wait, or we'll find you another when you're divorced and rich. I thought of Maria teaching me Spanish during our first deployment together in Puerto Rico. Escúchame de lo que hablas, she'd said. Listen more than you speak. The Marines had stationed me there for 2 years, but Maria had been my real education. Her family from San Juan had embraced me, taught me, made me fluent. What about the construction business? Isabel asked. The divorce settlement would be substantial. Half of everything, Carlos confirmed. Texas is a community property state. Plus the old fool will probably give Mateo a job. Americans are so trusting with family. What are you all discussing? Adeline asked brightly, breaking their flow. Just family memories, dear, Mateo lied smoothly, switching to English like flipping a channel. Papa was remembering my childhood. I served the cake, meeting each of their eyes as I placed their plates. Carlos grabbed his fork eagerly, oblivious. Isabel smiled that cold smile. Mateo looked slightly sick. They switched back to Spanish as Adeline went to the kitchen for coffee. The house alone is worth $2 million, Carlos estimated, plus the business, the wine collection, probably stocks and bonds. We need to move fast, Isabel said, before he gets suspicious. The wedding should be within 3 months. That's too fast, Mateo protested. She'll wonder why the rush. Tell her you can't wait to start your life together, Isabel instructed. Women love that romantic nonsense. Adeline returned with the coffee pot, humming happily. The conversation switched back to English seamlessly. Your mother was beautiful, Isabel said, gesturing at our family photo. Mexican? Puerto Rican, I replied, watching her realize the implications. Mateo's eyes darted to mine, a flicker of fear crossing his face. Did I understand? How much had I heard? She must have taught you about our culture, Carlos said, carefully testing. Some, I said vaguely. She passed when Adeline was 18. Relief flooded their faces. The grieving widower wouldn't have kept up with languages. Life insurance must have helped. Isabel probed again. A good policy makes such a difference. We had excellent coverage, I confirmed, refilling wine glasses. Maria insisted on it. Carlos was getting sloppy now, the wine working through him. He switched to Spanish again, forgetting caution. The daughter's pretty enough. Mateo won't suffer too much. 3 years of pretending isn't so bad for millions. I can't have children with her, Mateo said. I won't do that to Sophia. You'll do whatever's necessary, Carlos growled. Children make the divorce easier anyway. Courts favor mothers. She keeps the kids. We keep the money. My hand tightened on the wine bottle. Maria's voice echoed in my memory. Knowledge is power only if they don't know you have it, mi amor. More cake? I offered in English. my voice perfectly steady. "You're too kind," Isabel cooed, though she'd just called me an easy mark in Spanish. I served seconds, thinking about my Marine unit. We'd had a saying, never let the enemy know you understand their communications. It had saved lives in Honduras, Panama, even stateside during joint operations with DEA. "We should discuss the wedding venue," Adeline said excitedly. "Mateo wants something big." "Of course he does," Carlos agreed in English, then muttered in Spanish, "Expensive weddings photograph well for immigration." The evening wound down with more planning, more calculating. They discussed dates, venues, guest lists, all while weaving Spanish assessments of my net worth between English pleasantries. "The prenup will be tricky," Isabel said in Spanish. "We need him to refuse one." "Tell the daughter prenups mean you don't believe in love," Carlos instructed Mateo. "She'll convince her father." At the door, they transformed back into the loving family. Mateo kissed Adeline deeply while his parents smirked behind her back. She melted into him, so trusting, so in love with an illusion. Carlos pumped my hand again, that too firm grip. "We're so blessed to join your family, Truman." "Welcome to the family," I replied, matching his pressure exactly. I closed the door and immediately reached for my phone. They'd made a critical error. They'd declared war on a Marine who'd spent years in intelligence. My fingers found Frank's number in my contacts. Former ICE, current private investigator, and someone who owed me favors from our service days. The phone rang once before Frank's gravelly voice answered. "Truman, it's late, brother." "I need your help," I said, watching through the window as the Hernandez family climbed into their rented Lexus. "Full background investigation. 3 Mexican nationals, possibly illegal, planning a marriage fraud. Your daughter?" Frank knew Adeline from barbecues, holidays, the good times before Maria died. "They picked the wrong family," I said. Carlos was gesturing animatedly in the car, probably calculating his future wealth. I pushed open my office door at 10 the next morning to find Frank McLeod's boots propped on my desk, security footage from my home cameras playing on his laptop. "How long you been sitting in my office?" "Since 7. He didn't look up from the screen. "Your security system needs updating. Also, your future son-in-law is a piece of work." Frank had aged well for 58. Gray crew cut still, military tight. Blue eyes sharp as the day we'd met at Pendleton. 20 years with ICE had given him a permanent skeptical expression that made suspects confess just to make him stop staring. "Coffee's cold," he said, gesturing at the pot. I ignored it, walking to the window overlooking our construction yard. 3 crews were already loading trucks. My business, built from nothing after the Marines. Maria had painted this office herself when we'd started. "They called me an old fool, Frank, in my own house." His boots hit the floor. "Tell me everything." I did. The whole dinner, the Spanish conversation, every detail. When I repeated Carlos's words in perfect Spanish, Frank's eyebrows rose. "Since when do you speak Spanish?" "Puerto Rico. 2 years stationed at Roosevelt Roads. Maria's family took me in, made sure I learned properly." I turned from the window. Never mentioned it after she died. No reason to. Frank was already typing. "Smart. Element of surprise." His fingers flew across the keyboard. "Mateo Hernandez. Here we go. B2 tourist visa, entered January 2nd. Expires April 15th. 30 days from now. He's desperate." More typing. "Carlos Hernandez. Interesting. Deported 2018 aggravated assault. He's here illegally." I moved behind him, reading the screen. ICE database, NCIC, systems I recognized from joint operations we'd run. "Carlos has ties to the Sinaloa cartel, money laundering through used car lots." Frank pulled up another window. "That's why Junior works at BMW of Austin. It's owned by cartel associates." Isabel. "Previous investigation for marriage fraud, 2019. Case dropped, insufficient evidence." He switched screens. "But look at this. Mateo's real name isn't Hernandez. It's Mateo Ramirez. Different father on the birth certificate." My phone buzzed. Adeline texting about wedding venues. I set it aside. There's more. Frank opened Facebook, surprising me. Social media is better than any database sometimes. Meet Sofia Martinez. The profile showed a pretty woman, mid-20s, visibly pregnant. The latest post, in Spanish. "Can't wait for Mateo to return from his business trip. Our baby needs their father." Posted March 10th, 5 days ago. Rage built cold in my chest. Not hot anger, the icy fury that had kept me alive in Fallujah. We could arrest them now, Frank offered. I still have contacts at ICE. No, I pulled up a chair. They'll claim it's all misunderstanding. Mateo will disappear back to Mexico. They'll find another target. So? So we give them exactly what they want. Then we take it all away? I grabbed a legal pad, started sketching. Remember the Rodriguez sting? The shell company? Frank grinned. Trinity Developments, still legally registered. Can you get the office on Congress again? Month-to-month lease. I know the building manager. He was already texting. What kind of trap are we setting? The kind that makes them convict themselves. I drew out the plan. Fake investment opportunity. Marked money. Hidden cameras. Documents that look like contracts but contain admissions. Frank whistled. You need them to bring cash. Carlos won't trust banks. He'll bring cash. What about Adeline? She can't know. Not yet. It would destroy her. I stood, pacing now. After it's done, after they're arrested, I'll tell her everything. Frank's phone rang. He answered, listened, hung up. My guy at Border Patrol ran the whole family. They've done this before. 3 times in California, twice in Arizona. How many girls like Adeline? 5 that we know of. All divorced within 3 years of marriage. All lost significant assets. I punched the wall. My knuckles split, blood spotting the drywall. Frank handed me a tissue without comment. We need bait, he said. Something to make them approach you. Government contract? Minority partnership requirement? I'd seen enough of those in my business. Big money, but needs upfront investment. How much? 50,000. Enough to hurt, not enough to make them suspicious. Frank pulled up document templates. I'll need 2 days to make convincing forgeries. Background company, fake contracts, the works. I need to accidentally run into Mateo. Somewhere Carlos will be. Frank's phone buzzed. Text from his contact. He showed me. Carlos Hernandez spotted at Austin BMW. There every Thursday night. Today's Tuesday. Thursday I go car shopping. You don't need a car. I need to look successful, vulnerable, slightly drunk. I'd played that role before, undercover in Tijuana. Celebrating alone because I have no one to share good news with. Frank stood, closing his laptop. We'll need backup, recording equipment, maybe some off-duty cops to play employees. Whatever it costs. Truman, his voice went serious. You sure about this? These people have cartel connections. It could get dangerous? I thought about Adeline, how she'd smiled at Mateo, how she'd already started planning their life together, how broken she'd be when she learned the truth. They targeted my daughter, Frank. They sat at Maria's table and planned to destroy our family. That's a yes, then. That's a promise? I picked up my phone, checking the time. Thursday, 7 p.m. I'll need breath mints that smell like bourbon. Frank laughed, dark and familiar. Just like Tijuana. Except this time it's personal. He headed for the door, paused. What about the real girlfriend? Sophia? I'd already thought about that. After we have them on tape, after the money changes hands, we bring her here. Let her confront Mateo herself. Cruel. Justice. I looked at Maria's photo on my desk. They want to play with people's hearts. Let them explain to a pregnant woman why her man is marrying someone else. Frank left. I sat alone in my office, staring at the construction awards on the wall. 20 years building things. Now I was going to demolish a family of con artists. My phone rang. Adeline. Dad, Mateo wants to have dinner Thursday. Can you make it? Sorry, sweetheart. Business meeting that night. Oh. Disappointment colored her voice. Well, maybe Friday? Maybe. Thursday would be business, all right. Just not the kind she expected. 4 days of preparation led me to Uchi's entrance at 7 Thursday evening. I'd gargled with bourbon-flavored mouthwash in the parking lot, sprayed more on my collar. The valet took Frank's Porsche. I'd needed the prop. I stumbled slightly crossing the threshold. Not drunk, just loose. Successful businessman celebrating alone. The hostess smiled. Welcome to Uchi. Do you have a reservation? Bar's fine, I said, letting my words run together slightly. Celebrating. Big win today. The sushi bar gleamed under soft lighting. Austin's business crowd filled most seats, deals flowing with the sake. I recognized Mateo immediately. Corner seat, checking his phone between bites of yellowtail. I made my approach look accidental, bumping his shoulder as I reached for a menu. Sorry. I squinted at him. Mateo? Mateo Hernandez? His face cycled through surprise, calculation, false warmth. Mr. Green! Truman! My future son-in-law. I grabbed his shoulder, perhaps too enthusiastically. Let me buy you a drink. Hell, let me buy you dinner. Oh, I couldn't. Nonsense. I flagged the bartender. Sake, the expensive one. We're celebrating. Mateo set down his phone carefully. What are we celebrating? I leaned in conspiratorially, letting sake fumes wash over him. Can you keep a secret? Don't want Adeline to know yet. His eyes sharpened. Of course. $5 million. I pulled out my phone, fumbling with it. See? Government contract. Just won it today. $5 million. The phone displayed Frank's forged documents. Department of Defense letterhead, official seals, numbers that would make anyone's head spin. That's incredible, Mateo breathed, his thumb already moving toward his phone. Problem is, I signaled for another sake, these government contracts, so many requirements, need minority business partner, diversity quotas, I laughed bitterly. Here I am, successful white guy, can't even access my own contract without help. Mateo's fingers flew across his phone screen, texting in Spanish, but I caught Papa and now. Maybe I could help, he suggested. My father owns a business, construction experience, import-export, but very diverse operations. Has to be Hispanic-owned, documented, all legal. I waved my hand vaguely. Government's strict about that. Everything with my father is completely legal, Mateo lied smoothly. The sake arrived. I poured sloppily, spilling a bit. To family. We drank. I ordered sushi, the most expensive items, pointing at the menu like focusing was hard. Mateo kept texting. Within 20 minutes, Carlos burst through the door. Papa! Mateo stood. What a coincidence. Carlos's performance wouldn't win awards. My son! And Mr. Green! How wonderful! Carlos! I stood too quickly, catching myself on the bar. Join us! I'm celebrating! Carlos took the seat beside me, hemming me in. Classic intimidation positioning. What are we celebrating? I went through the whole story again, adding details. The contract was for building veteran housing. My company was perfect, except for one thing. Needed a minority partner to qualify. Such unfair requirements, Carlos sympathized, his eyes gleaming. $50,000 buy-in, I said, producing more forged documents. But the return, I showed them a projection sheet, $500,000 within 3 months. Father and son exchanged looks. But Adeline can't know, I insisted. Want to surprise her? Wedding present, set up college funds for grandkids. I got misty-eyed. Maria would have wanted that. Of course, Carlos soothed. Family business stays in the family. I ordered more sake, more sushi. Pulled out bank statements. Frank's forgeries showing $2 million in liquid assets. Money's no problem, just need the right partner. We could be partners, Carlos suggested carefully. You'd do that? I grabbed his hand. Family helping family. When would you need the investment? Mateo asked. April 1st. Deadline for partnership papers. I fumbled for my wallet, overpaying the bartender by $200. Money means nothing without family to share it with. Carlos helped me stand. You shouldn't drive. Got a driver? I lied. Listen, if you're serious, my office. Trinity Developments, April 1st, 2 o'clock. We'll be there, Carlos promised. I started to leave, then turned back. Bring the investment in cash. Government tracks everything else. Tax advantages. I winked, obviously. Outside, I maintained the act until their BMW pulled away. Then I straightened, walked normally to the valet, texted Frank, fish on the hook. Back at the table, Carlos was drilling Mateo in Spanish. Does the girl suspect anything? Nothing, Papa. She's completely in love. Good. 50,000 investment, 10 times return. Even if it's half true, we profit. They hadn't noticed I'd left my phone recording on the bar, hidden under a napkin. Frank would retrieve it later. Every word captured. April 1st, 2 o'clock. I watched the security monitors as Mateo's BMW entered the Congress Avenue parking garage. Frank, dressed as attorney James Morrison, arranged contracts on the conference table one last time. Actors in position? I asked. 3 off-duty cops playing employees. Background authenticity. Frank adjusted his tie. Recording equipment's running. Multiple angles. The office looked perfect. Real furniture rented for the month, fake awards on walls, borrowed computers humming. Through the glass door, actual businesses operated, their employees unknowing extras in our show. The elevator dinged. Mateo and Carlos emerged, Carlos carrying a black duffel bag. Isabel had stayed home, probably counting their future millions. "Welcome to Trinity Developments," I boomed, all successful businessmen. The reception actor looked up, smiled, returned to fake work. "Mr. Green," Mateo shook my hand, ready to make history. "Family history," I corrected, leading them to the conference room. "Mr. Morrison, these are our new partners." Frank stood, every inch the corporate lawyer. "Gentlemen, please sit. We have several documents to execute today." The bag hit the table with a solid thump. Carlos unzipped it partially, revealing bundled bills. 50,000, as discussed. "Excellent." Frank spread papers across the table. "Standard partnership agreement. Mr. Hernandez, both Mr. Hernandezes. I'll need you to read and sign where indicated." The documents were masterpieces. Real legal language bearing admissions. Page 3, subsection 2A. Partner acknowledges investment for purposes of establishing legitimate business presence for immigration status. Page 7. Partner affirms all representations regarding legal status are materially false if proven otherwise. Mateo signed eagerly. Carlos read more carefully, but missed the buried language. They initialed every page, authenticated every trap. "Now," Frank said, "the investment transfer requires verbal acknowledgement. For the recording," he pointed to a visible recorder, "state your names and the amount being invested." Mateo Hernandez, investing $50,000. Carlos Hernandez, investing $50,000. Neither realized they'd just confessed to money laundering on tape. I counted the cash slowly, Frank photographing serial numbers with his phone for records. The bills were marked. Federal tracking would trace them if needed. "Champagne?" I produced a bottle, pouring generous glasses. "To our children's future," Carlos toasted. We drank. Mateo took selfies with the partnership documents. Carlos called Isabel, speaking Spanish. "It's done. We're officially partners in an American construction company." "When do we see returns?" Carlos asked. "First distribution in 30 days, Frank replied. "Section 7B of the contract." "And the government contract?" "Finalizes once the partnership is recorded. Monday morning." I showed them more forged documents. "Everything's in motion." An actor knocked, entered. "Mr. Green? Houston's online too about the veteran project. Tell them we're ready to proceed." Perfect timing. Rehearsed that morning. Mateo practically glowed. "This is really happening." "Family taking care of family," I said, clasping his shoulder. They prepared to leave, Carlos securing the now empty duffel. At the door, Mateo turned. "Adeline doesn't know?" "Our secret. Want to surprise her with the wedding fund." "You're a good father," Carlos said. I wondered if he meant it or was still acting. They left, jubilant. I watched from the window as they drove away, already planning their spending. Frank began packing the recording equipment. "How long before they realize?" he asked. "They won't get the chance." I pulled out my phone, scrolling to a number Frank had found. International code for Mexico. "Hello, Miss Martinez. This is Truman Green calling from Austin, Texas. Your flight lands tomorrow at 2:15. I'll have a car waiting." Frank raised an eyebrow. "Yes," I continued. "Mateo doesn't know you're coming. That's important. Bring any documentation you have about your relationship. Photos, messages, medical records about the pregnancy." Sofia Martinez's voice crackled through the connection, confused but cooperative. She'd been desperate when Frank had first contacted her, thought Mateo had abandoned her. Now she had hope for answers. "No, Miss Martinez. All expenses are covered. Just be ready for some difficult truths." I hung up. Frank was labeling evidence bags, each bundle of photographed bills, sealed and documented. "Tomorrow?" he asked. "Tomorrow Adeline meets Mateo's real fiancé? Sunday, family dinner with special guests. Monday morning, ice raids at the BMW dealership. You've thought this through. Marine's plan for every contingency." I picked up one of the contracts, Mateo's signature bold across the bottom. They wanted to steal my daughter's future. Now they've signed their own deportation orders. The office phone rang. The real office phone, my construction company. "Green Construction," I answered. "Mr. Green? This is Detective Morrison, Austin PD. We've been monitoring Carlos Hernandez as part of a larger investigation. We understand you've had contact?" I smiled at Frank. The evidence we'd submitted through his contacts was already working. Detective, I think you'll want to see what we've recorded today. Through the window, Austin's skyline stretched bright under April's sun. Somewhere out there, Mateo and Carlos were celebrating their score. Somewhere else, Adeline was planning her wedding to a man who didn't exist. Tomorrow, reality would arrive on Flight 287 from Mexico City. 2 weeks crawled by before everything started unraveling. April 15th, 8 in the evening, I sat reviewing dealership surveillance footage when Adeline's face filled my phone screen. Video call. Her mascara had smeared slightly, and she held papers in trembling hands. Dad, I found something. Multiple somethings. Behind her, I could hear water running. Mateo in the shower. Smart girl, waiting until he couldn't hear. What kind of somethings? She held documents to the camera. Even through the screen, I recognized the expired visa Frank had flagged weeks ago. His visa expired today. Today? He told me he had a green card. Maybe there's an explanation. There's more. Her voice cracked. Papers rustled as she showed another document. Different last name on his Mexican ID. Ramirez, not Hernandez. I forced surprise into my voice. That's strange. And this. A bank withdrawal slip filled the screen. $50,000, April 1st. Where did he get $50,000, Dad? The shower stopped. We both heard it. Put everything back exactly as you found it, I instructed quickly. There's a second phone, she whispered urgently. Hidden in his sock drawer. Messages in Spanish. I can't read them, but I see a name repeated. Sophia. My chest tightened. She was discovering things faster than planned. Screenshot what you can. Send them to me. I'll translate. Her fingers flew across both phones. The text mentioned someone named Sophia. Lots of heart emojis. Recent ones. Honey, you done in there? Mateo's voice carried through the bathroom door. Almost, Adeline called back, her voice artificially bright. She turned back to the camera. Dad, what's happening? Come for dinner Sunday. Bring Mateo. Act normal. Normal? Dad, I think my fiancé is... The bathroom door opened. Steam rolled out. Who are you talking to? Mateo stood in a towel, water still dripping from his hair. Just Dad, Adeline said, that fake brightness still coating her words. About Sunday dinner? His face hardened. He walked closer, hand extended. Let me talk to him about something. The camera shook as he took the phone. His face replaced Adeline's, too close to the lens. Truman, my future father. The charm felt forced. About that investment opportunity? What investment? I kept my voice carefully neutral. Behind him I saw Adeline folding the papers, trying to return them to the drawer without him noticing. The one we discussed? With my father? Trinity Developments? I don't know what you're talking about, son. His jaw clenched. The 50,000, our partnership. Mateo, I think you're confused. Should we discuss this Sunday? We should discuss this now. Mateo! Adeline's voice interrupted it. Everything okay? He turned, giving me a view of Adeline standing by the dresser, drawer closed, looking innocently concerned. My smart girl. Everything's perfect, mi amor, he said, but his voice carried an edge. He turned back to me. Sunday, then. We'll all talk Sunday. Looking forward to it, I said. He ended the call without goodbye. My phone immediately buzzed with Adeline's screenshots. Pages of Spanish messages between Mateo and Sophia. Photos they'd shared. Plans they'd made. The most recent from yesterday. Only one more month, my love. Then divorce and we can be together. I called Frank. Adeline knows something's wrong. How much? Enough to be suspicious. Not enough to be safe. I forwarded him the screenshots. Mateo's getting desperate. Visa's expired, money's spent, no return coming. Want to move up the timeline? No? Sophia arrives May 1st as planned, but put surveillance on Adeline's apartment. If Mateo makes one threatening move, already on it, had someone watching since April 2nd. This was why Frank was worth every favor owed. Truman, he continued, the Austin PD contact called. Carlos has been making inquiries about you. Street-level stuff. Where you go, who you see, your routines. Let him look. He'll find what we want him to find. You sure Sunday dinner is smart? Cornered animals get dangerous. They're not cornered yet. They still think they're winning. I pulled up the contracts they'd signed, admissions buried in legalese. But they're about to learn what cornered really means. The girl from Mexico confirmed for May 1st? Confirmed. 7 months pregnant and desperate for answers. This is going to destroy Adeline. I thought of my daughter's trembling hands holding those papers, the dawning realization in her voice. She's already breaking. Better it comes from me than from them. I closed the surveillance footage. Sunday dinner. Make sure you have units standing by. You expecting violence? I'm expecting desperation. In my experience, they look the same. After we hung up, I sat in my dark office, staring at Maria's photo. Would she approve? Would she understand? My phone lit up with another message from Adeline. Dad, I'm scared. I typed back. Trust me. Everything will be clear Sunday. Her response was immediate. I don't think I can pretend for 2 more days. You're stronger than you know. Your mother's daughter. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, he's coming back. I love you, Dad. Love you too, sweetheart. I set the phone down and opened my safe. Inside, beside Maria's jewelry and our wedding photos, lay my service weapon. I'd cleaned it that morning like I'd cleaned it every morning since April 1st. Sunday was coming. The trap was set. Now I just had to make sure we all survived it. May 1st arrived with thunderstorms, fitting weather for what was coming. Frank and I waited in the Hilton lobby as Flight 287 from Mexico City had landed 2 hours ago. Immigration would be slow, especially for a pregnant woman traveling alone. She entered through the automatic doors, pulling a small suitcase, and my breath caught. 7 months pregnant, exhausted, beautiful in that vulnerable way that made her seem younger than 26. She looked lost until she spotted the sign I held. Sophia Martinez. Mr. Green? Her English was heavily accented but clear. Miss Martinez, this is Frank McLeod, my associate. I took her suitcase. Your room is ready. She nodded, one hand protectively over her belly. In the elevator, she stayed silent, overwhelmed. The executive suite Frank had prepared was comfortable but professional, recording equipment visible but non-threatening. Please sit, I offered, guiding her to the sofa. You must be tired. Mateo, he doesn't know I'm here? No. She pulled out her phone, showing me the screen. He stopped answering 2 months ago, after years of promises. Frank poured water, handed it to her gently. Tell us about your relationship. The story poured out in broken English, mixed with Spanish. Childhood sweethearts, from the same neighborhood in Guadalajara, together since she was 17. His mother, Isabel, is my cousin. She introduced us at her daughter's quince era. Isabel is your cousin? This was new information. Si. She promised to help us. Said Mateo needed papers first, and then could bring me. Sophia opened her purse, spreading documents on the coffee table. Photos of them together spanning years. Look, Christmas 2020, 2021, 2022. In every photo, Mateo looked genuinely happy, different from the performance he gave with Adeline. When did he tell you about coming to America? January. His papa said he had business opportunity. Just few months, get papers, then send for me. She pulled up WhatsApp messages. Every day he wrote. Until March. I read the messages, Frank recording everything. Mateo's promises were elaborate, specific. The house they'd buy, the school for their children, how he was doing everything for their future. The baby? I asked gently. Her face lit up despite everything. He was so happy. Look. She showed an ultrasound video, Mateo's voice in the background speaking rapid Spanish, calling himself Papa over and over. That was December, before he left. Tears started falling. He said green card marriage meant nothing, just papers, business arrangement. Did he mention the woman's name? No, only that she was American teacher. Means nothing, he said. She looked at me with those dark eyes. Is she pretty? How do you answer that? Will your daughter hate me? Sophia asked. No, none of this is your fault. I just want my baby to have father. Her hand rubbed her belly in slow circles. His father, Carlos, threatens to disown him if he doesn't follow plan. Frank leaned forward. What exactly was the plan? Marry American woman. Get green card. Wait 3 years for citizenship. Divorce. Take money. She said it simply, like describing a recipe. Carlos has done before with other cousins. Other cousins? 3 in California. 2 in Arizona. His family business. Frank and I exchanged glances. This was bigger than we'd known. The $50,000 Mateo had. Where did that come from? Sophia looked confused. What 50,000? We have no money. Is why he went to America? I showed her the bank slip from Adeline's photos. Her face went pale. He told me we had nothing. I worked 2 jobs to pay for baby things. Fresh tears. Where did he get this money? From his father, probably. For an investment. Investment in what? In destroying my daughter's life, she gasped, hand to mouth. I didn't know. I swear, I didn't know details. We believe you, Frank said gently. That's why we brought you here. To stop them? Room service arrived. I'd ordered food, knowing she probably hadn't eaten. As she ate, she showed more evidence. Bank transfers from Mateo before he left. Small amounts, but regular. They stopped in March. After he got engaged, I said. She flinched. Engaged? He uses that word with her? Yes. With me, he never used that word. 4 years together, but no engagement. Said we didn't need papers to prove love. She laughed bitterly. But for American woman, he needs papers. Miss Martinez, Sophia, what happens at the wedding? I asked. What wedding? The one planned for June. Mateo and my daughter. Her face crumbled. June? So soon? My phone buzzed. Text from Mateo. Need to talk about our investment. Where's my money? I typed back. What investment? You're confused. His response was instant. Don't play games, old man. We have contracts. Come to dinner May 15th. We'll discuss everything. 3 dots then. We better discuss more than that. You owe us. I showed Frank the texts. He nodded toward Sophia. What about her? There won't be a wedding, I told Sophia. But there will be justice. Are you willing to confront him? Face to face? With witnesses. With police standing by. She placed both hands on her belly. Seemed to draw strength from the life growing there. Yes. For my baby. Yes. The confrontation will be May 15th. 2 weeks to prepare. What do I do until then? Rest. Document everything. Practice what you'll say. I stood. Frank will check on you daily. You're safe here. Mr. Green, she called as we reached the door. Your daughter, she loves him? I thought of Adeline's trembling hands, her frightened voice. She loves who she thought he was. I understand that feeling, Sophia said quietly. In the elevator, Frank was already planning. 2 weeks gives us time to coordinate with ICE, Austin PD, maybe FBI, if the cartel connection is solid. May 15th, I confirmed. Family dinner. Everyone at the same table. That's going to be explosive. That's the idea. The elevator opened to the parking garage. Mateo wanted to destroy my family at my dinner table. Seems fitting to return the favor. May 15th arrived like a reckoning. 6 o'clock, and through my front window I watched 3 cars pull up simultaneously. Orchestrated intimidation. Carlos emerged first, his face red with barely contained rage. Isabel followed, her cold eyes scanning my house like she was cataloging assets for auction. Mateo came last, gripping Adeline's arm too tightly as they walked up the driveway. I opened the door before they could knock. Carlos pushed past me without greeting. Where's our money, old man? Good evening to you too, Carlos. Dinner's ready. We didn't come for dinner. He stormed into my living room where Adeline sat nervously on the couch. $50,000. 30 days. You said 30 days. Isabel settled into Maria's chair again, that same possessive gesture from their first visit. The investment was supposed to return by now. What investment? Adeline asked, looking between us all. Nothing, mi amor, Mateo said quickly, but his grip on her shoulder made her wince. Business between men, Carlos dismissed her. Trinity Developments. The government contract. Where's our return? I poured myself water, steady hands despite the rage building in my chest. There must be some misunderstanding. I don't have any business with you. Carlos's face went purple. Don't lie. We have contracts. Dad, what are they talking about? Adeline tried to stand, but Mateo pressed her back down. Stay seated, he ordered. Not asked. Ordered. That was the moment. I saw it in Adeline's eyes, the final break of illusion. Let go of me, she said quietly. You're not going anywhere until this is resolved, Mateo said. She jerked away, standing. I said, let go. Carlos switched to Spanish, forgetting caution in his anger. Control your woman, or this whole thing falls apart. English, please, I said mildly. We all speak English here. Some of us speak more than that, Carlos snarled, then caught himself. Mateo, Adeline's voice was stronger now. Your visa expired. I saw the papers. The room went silent. You went through my things? Mateo's charm evaporated. Your real name is Ramirez. You have a second phone. Who's Sophia? Isabel stood sharply. This girl knows too much. Knows what exactly? I asked. About the... Carlos stopped himself, but too late. We need wedding now, Isabel announced. This week, before more problems. There won't be a wedding, Adeline said. Mateo grabbed her wrist. Yes, there will. You're hurting me. Mateo. My voice carried the tone that had stopped bar fights, ended confrontations, made grown men step back. Release my daughter. Now. He let go but moved between us, blocking my path to her. Your daughter owes us a wedding, Carlos said. We have investment in this family. What investment? Adeline demanded. What are you talking about? Your father took $50,000 from us, Isabel said coldly, for business partnership. Now he refuses to pay. That's a lie, Adeline said, but looked at me uncertainly. Tell her, Carlos demanded. Tell her about Trinity Developments. There is no Trinity Developments, I said calmly. Well, there is, but it's not what you think. We have contracts. Mateo pulled papers from his jacket. Yes, you do. Contracts where you admitted to immigration fraud, money laundering, and conspiracy. I smiled. Did you even read what you signed? The color drained from Mateo's face. Every word buried in those contracts is a confession, I continued. Every dollar you handed over is marked and tracked. Every conversation was recorded. You set us up? Carlos's hand moved toward his pocket. Hands where I can see them. Frank's voice came from the hallway. He entered with 2 Austin PD officers. Nobody moves. I need some air, Adeline said suddenly, heading for the door. Mateo grabbed her arm roughly. You're not going anywhere. She pulled free and ran. Carlos shouted at Mateo in Spanish, Get control of your woman, or we lose everything. I stood slowly, reaching for my phone. Gentlemen, ladies, I think it's time we discuss this like civilized people. The doorbell rang. Everyone froze. That would be our final dinner guest, I said, walking to the door. Sophia stood on my porch, 7 months pregnant, beautiful and terrified. Behind her, another officer waited. Mateo? Her voice carried into the house. Mi amor? I heard a crash from the dining room. Mateo had dropped his wine glass, red liquid spreading across Maria's white tablecloth like blood. Sophia? His voice cracked. She walked in slowly, dignity intact despite everything. Hola, Mateo. Your father said you were on business trip. Carlos cursed in Spanish. Isabel's mask finally shattered completely. Who is this? Adeline asked, though the answer was obvious. I am Sofia Martinez, she said in careful English. I am having Mateo's baby. We are together 7 years. 4 years, Mateo corrected automatically, then realized his mistake. So you do know her, Adeline said flatly. Sophia pulled out her phone, showing everyone the ultrasound. 3 months until baby comes. You promised to be there, Mateo. This is entrapment, Carlos shouted. This is justice, Frank corrected. I looked at each of them. Carlos Hernandez, you were deported in 2018. You're here illegally. Mateo, your visa expired April 15th. You're here illegally. The money you invested? Marked bills tied to cartel laundering through BMW of Austin. You can't prove anything, Isabel said. Actually, Detective Morrison entered, the one who'd called weeks ago. We can. We've been building this case for 2 years. You just gave us the final pieces. Adeline, Mateo reached for her. I can explain. Don't. She backed away. Just don't. Sophia approached him slowly. The money you said we didn't have. $50,000. Where did it come from? It's complicated, he mumbled. Complicated? She laughed bitterly. What's complicated? You left me pregnant to marry another woman for papers. It meant nothing, he protested. Just business. I meant nothing? Adeline asked. He looked between them, these 2 women he'd betrayed, and for once had no smooth words. Mr. Hernandez, Morrison stepped forward. All 3 of you need to come with us. This isn't over, Carlos threatened me. Yes, I said. It is. As they were led out, Sophia turned to Adeline. I'm sorry. I didn't know about you. I didn't know about you either, Adeline replied. They stood there, 2 women united in betrayal, while sirens wailed in the distance. 17 days had passed since the arrests when Special Agent Rivera clicked through surveillance footage on the conference room's large screen. June 1st, 11 in the morning, and the ice field office hummed with controlled urgency. I pointed at specific moments in the video where crimes were being committed while Adeline sat beside me, still processing everything she'd learned in the past 2 weeks. This one, Rivera paused the footage. April 1st, 2:47 p.m. Both suspects verbally confessing to money laundering. The conference room felt official. American flag in the corner, photos of wanted criminals on bulletin boards, one-way mirror reflecting our tired faces. Agent Thompson, younger and eager, scribbled notes while Rivera commanded the presentation. The 50,000 in marked bills, Rivera continued, switching slides, tracked directly to accounts linked with the Sinaloa cartel. This goes beyond simple marriage fraud. This is organized crime. Dad, you knew about the baby? About Sophia? Adeline's voice was small. Since May 1st. We needed her testimony. The screen switched to a video link. Sophia appeared, now back in Mexico, 8 months pregnant. She spoke carefully, documenting years of relationship with Mateo. Adeline's tears started when Sophia showed photos from their childhood together. Ms. Green, Rivera turned to Adeline, we need you to go through with the ceremony. What? Adeline stood abruptly. A controlled operation. The wedding happens, we arrest them there. Maximum charges, no escape routes. They threatened you, Thompson added, reviewing his notes. That changes everything. Attempted coercion, assault. I can't marry him. Not even fake marry him. You won't, Rivera assured her. The officiant will be one of ours. Nothing legal will occur, but we need them to believe it's real until the moment of arrest. Frank leaned forward from his corner seat. The cartel connections run deeper than we thought. BMW of Austin was laundering millions. Your case broke it open. Rivera's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, frowned. Carlos just bought 3 one-way tickets to Mexico City, July 16th, day after your wedding. They're planning to run, Thompson said. With my daughter, I added. Kidnapping, most likely. Force her to Mexico. Keep her until citizenship is granted. Adeline paled. They were going to kidnap me. The tickets support that theory, Rivera said. 3 tickets, not 4. They never intended to leave Mateo's wife behind. The evidence mounted on screen. Carlos's previous deportation file with assault charges. Isabel's 2019 marriage fraud investigation. Cases in California, Arizona, Nevada. A pattern spanning decades. Diplomatic considerations with Mexico are delicate, Rivera explained. But with Sophia's cooperation and the cartel angle, we have federal backing. The baby changes things, Frank noted. Mateo abandoned a pregnant woman for immigration fraud. Jury will destroy him. Thompson pulled up legal codes on his tablet. 8 U.S.C. 1325, illegal entry. 18 U.S.C. 1956, money laundering. 18 U.S.C. 371, conspiracy. We're looking at 10 to 20 years for Carlos, 5 to 10 for Isabel, 3 to 5 for Mateo, before deportation. Rico? Frank suggested. Pattern of racketeering. Possibly. Rivera made notes. Depends on how many other families they've done this to. They fitted Adeline with a recording device, tiny and undetectable. She stood still while Thompson adjusted the transmitter, her face set with new determination. 6 weeks to prepare, Rivera said. July 15th, St. David's Episcopal Church. We've already coordinated with the venue. How many agents? I asked. 25 undercover as guests, another dozen outside. Austin PD backup if needed. My phone buzzed. Text from Carlos. We need to discuss our investment. Meet tomorrow. Let him stew, Rivera advised. No contact until the wedding. Make them desperate. Adeline turned to me. Mom would have done this, wouldn't she? Fought back? Without hesitation, Rivera stood, gathering files. Ms. Green, you're brave. Most victims never get justice. How many victims are there? Adeline asked. That we know of? 47 across 6 states. You're helping them all. Frank's phone rang. He answered, listened, his face going pale. Sophia's in labor, 2 weeks early. The baby, Adeline started. Stress-induced, Frank continued listening. She's asking for Mateo. He's in federal detention, Rivera said. No contact allowed. Frank hung up. She understands. Just wanted him to know his son was being born while he sat in a cell. The room fell silent. Somewhere in Mexico, a child was entering the world without his father. Somewhere in Austin, that father was behind bars. 6 weeks, Rivera repeated. We end this properly. The wedding? Adeline asked. Will be beautiful, Rivera smiled grimly. Right until it isn't. July 15th arrived with blazing Texas heat. 3 o'clock, and I stood adjusting my tie in the church's preparation room mirror, the bulletproof vest underneath making the suit fit awkwardly. Organ music drifted through the walls, Wagner's bridal chorus, traditional and unsuspecting. The door opened. Adeline entered wearing Maria's wedding dress, the one we'd saved for this day, though never imagining these circumstances. Beautiful but determined, she looked like her mother, heading into battle. 50 guests, she said, checking the small microphone hidden in her bouquet. 25 are agents, plus support teams outside. I helped her with the veil. Rivera's playing the minister. Through the door's window, we could see the church filling. Mateo stood at the altar, sweating despite the air conditioning, checking his phone obsessively. Carlos and Isabel sat in the front row, suspicious but trapped by their own greed. They needed this wedding for their plan. Frank has eyes on everything, I assured her. Multiple exit coverage. Some of Adeline's teacher friends had come, unaware they were extras in a federal operation. The other guests, agents in their Sunday best, chatted casually while maintaining strategic positions. Ready? I offered my arm. Let's end this. The music changed, traditional processional. The doors opened. The walk down the aisle felt eternal. Mateo's forced smile, Carlos's calculating stare, Isabel already eyeing the wedding gifts table. Agent Rivera stood at the altar in minister's robes, her face serene. We reached the altar. I placed Adeline's hand in Mateo's, wanting to break his fingers instead. Dearly beloved, Rivera began, her voice carrying perfectly, we gather today to witness. The church doors burst open. Everyone turned. Sophia stood silhouetted against the afternoon sun, no longer pregnant, but carrying a small bundle. She walked forward, her heels clicking on the stone floor, echoing in the sudden silence. I object, she said clearly, continuing down the aisle. The baby cried, sharp, piercing, real. Sophia? Mateo's face drained white. She reached the altar, turned to face the congregation. This is my husband's son. Mateo's son, 2 weeks old today. Carlos shot to his feet. This is lies, tricks. Sit down, Mr. Hernandez, Rivera said, and it wasn't a request. Sophia pulled documents from her bag. Birth certificate. Mateo Ramirez named his father. 4 years of photos together. Messages promising marriage. The baby cried louder. Sophia bounced him gently, then looked at Mateo. His name is Miguel, like you wanted. This is a setup. Carlos rushed toward Sophia. That was the signal. Federal agents. Nobody move. 25 guests stood simultaneously, badges appearing, weapons visible but not drawn. The real wedding guests screamed, confused. Carlos threw a punch at the nearest agent, missed, and was on the ground in seconds. Papa! Mateo started toward him. Don't, Adeline said, pulling off her veil. Just don't. Isabel tried to run in her heels, made it 3 steps before an agent stopped her. She fell, designer dress tearing, screaming in Spanish about lawsuits and diplomatic immunity she didn't have. Mateo Hernandez, Morrison appeared with handcuffs. You're under arrest for immigration fraud, money laundering, conspiracy. Adeline, please. Mateo reached for her. She pulled off the engagement ring, threw it. It bounced off his chest, fell to the floor with a tiny metallic sound, somehow audible over the chaos. That's for lying, for Sophia, for your son you abandoned. More agents poured in. Carlos fought 3 of them, requiring restraints. Isabel spat at Rivera, earned additional charges. Mateo collapsed to his knees, staring at the baby in Sophia's arms. Can I hold him? He asked. No, Sophia said simply. You had your chance. They dragged him out, past the scattered flowers, the overturned pews, the cake that someone had knocked over in the chaos. White frosting spread across the floor like spilled dreams. The church emptied quickly. Crime scene tape appeared. Evidence teams moved in. Within minutes, the wedding had become a crime scene. Only 4 of us remained in the scattered petals. Truman, Adeline, Sophia, and baby Miguel. What happens to my son's father now? Sophia asked in accented English. Frank returned from outside, his suit disheveled from helping with Carlos. Transport's ready. Rivera wants you to know that Austin PD found 12 more victims coming forward since the arrest announcement. Baby Miguel reached out, his tiny hand grasping at air. Without thinking, Adeline offered her finger. He gripped it, strong for 2 weeks old. He's beautiful, she said to Sophia. He has his father's eyes, Sophia replied. I hope nothing else. 5 weeks later, August 20th, and the Texas sun painted everything gold as it set behind my house. I set 2 wine glasses on the patio table, hearing Adeline's car pull into the driveway. She looked healthier now, laughing at something on her phone, a text from a new friend at the private school where she'd start teaching next month. The news coverage is dying down, she said, joining me on the patio. Thank goodness. The headlines had been spectacular. Major immigration fraud ring busted at fake wedding. National coverage for 2 weeks. CNN, Fox, everyone had opinions. Verdicts came in yesterday, I told her. Carlos got 10 years federal, then deportation. Isabel got 5, Mateo got 3, deportation after. And the money? Returned via federal asset forfeiture. $50,000 back in my account this morning. She nodded, sipping the wine, the good bottle from that first dinner in March. Sophia? Returned to Mexico last week. The government provided compensation from seized cartel assets. She'll be okay. We sat quietly, watching the sunset. Inside, Maria's photo smiled from the mantel, seeming more at peace now. I enrolled in Spanish classes, Adeline said suddenly. I raised an eyebrow. No more secrets in my presence. Never again. Frank arrived with beer and barbecue, his usual contribution to our dinners, brought mail from Sophia. The letter included photos of baby Miguel, now 2 months old, chubby cheeks, dark eyes, innocent of his father's crimes. She writes that he looks like his father but has her spirit, Adeline translated, practicing her Spanish. Another envelope had arrived, addressed to Adeline from federal detention. Mateo's handwriting. She didn't open it. Instead, she walked to the fire barrel I'd set up, dropped it in unopened. Some words don't deserve reading. We burned things that night. The fake marriage certificate, the wedding planning documents. The dress went last, synthetic fabric creating colorful flames that danced against the darkening sky. BMW dealerships closed, Frank reported. Feds seized everything. The investigation expanded to 12 states. 47 victims have come forward so far. Will they get justice? Adeline asked. More than they had before. I pulled out a new document. Green Construction got the veterans' housing contract, the real one, $5 million, legitimate, the one you pretended to have. Fiction became fact. Sometimes the universe has a sense of irony. Adeline laughed, first real laugh I'd heard in months. Mom would have loved that detail. To Maria, I raised my glass. Who taught me the Spanish that saved our daughter? To Mom, Adeline echoed, and to new beginnings. Frank raised his beer. To justice served cold and calculated. The stars emerged as we talked. Adeline mentioned a fellow teacher she'd been having coffee with. His name's David. Divorced, has a daughter. Very careful, very honest. Careful is good, I said. Honest is better. A letter from Agent Rivera arrived that week, unofficial but warm. The case had become required study at ICE training, a textbook example of civilian cooperation with federal law enforcement. You're famous in law enforcement circles, Frank told me. Rather be unknown and have my daughter safe. Summer cicadas filled the silence, the sound of Texas, of home, of survival. I've been thinking about Mom a lot, Adeline said, how she would have handled this. She would have done exactly what I did, I replied, but probably faster. We laughed. Above us, a shooting star crossed the sky. Rare for August, special for the moment. Make a wish, I said. Adeline closed her eyes, opened them. I wished for wisdom to see truth, always. That's not how wishes work. You're not supposed to tell. New rules, she said. No more secrets, remember? The night deepened. Frank left eventually, promising lunch tomorrow. Adeline stayed longer, both of us reluctant to end this moment of peace. My phone buzzed, a text from Sophia, a video of Miguel laughing, his first laugh. Despite everything, life continued. He'll never know his father, Adeline observed. He'll know his mother fought for him. That's enough. We sat in comfortable silence, father and daughter, survivors of deception. The stars above Austin shone bright and honest, no lies in their light. Inside the house, Maria's photo watched over us still, her wisdom proven right once more. In the distance, a siren wailed. Someone else's emergency, someone else's drama. Our storm had passed. The Hernandez family was gone, imprisoned or deported, their network dismantled. Dad? Adeline asked. Would you do it again? Every single move, even letting them in that first night? Especially that. Sometimes you have to let the devil in to send him back where he belongs. She stood to leave, hugged me longer than usual. Love you, Dad. Love you too, sweetheart. After she left, I sat alone under the Texas stars. Somewhere in federal prison, 3 con artists contemplated their mistakes. Somewhere in Mexico, a baby grew without his father. Somewhere in Austin, my daughter was learning to trust again. Justice had been served, cold and calculated, as Frank said, but also heated by love, a father's love that would move mountains, expose lies, and speak any language necessary to protect his child. The cicadas sang their summer song. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but tonight, under these honest stars, we had won. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.